hearing, it should be self-evident that without enforcement of our immigration laws, we have no immigration laws. Without immigration, our border is meaningless. And if our border is meaningless, we no longer have a country. It's simply a vast international territory between Canada and Mexico, both of which have immigration laws that they actually enforce. It's our objective over this next session to lay out the reforms that are necessary to assure that this sort of thing never happens to our country again. But there's no substitute for the enforcement of our existing laws, as we saw under the previous administration. When those laws are enforced, we secure our borders. And as we've seen in this administration, when we refuse to enforce them, those borders collapse.
Okay, we'll take a few questions.
Chairman Jordan,
Yeah.
Adam from KYMA. Just wondering if you had any reaction to the Biden administration's recent asylum proposal changes.
Well, anything they do that's going to help the situation, if it really does, is a step in the right direction, because their intentional change of policies has created the chaos that we've seen. And that was clear again in today's hearing. I always point out, on day one, they made three key decisions. No more wall, no more detain and deport, and no more remain in Mexico. And that's fundamentally changed the picture. And everybody says it. The county supervisor says it, law enforcement says it, border control says it. Everyone understands that's the problem. So anything they can do that's a step in the right direction, all right, God bless them. But it still pales in comparison to what we had in the previous administration.
Plus, they're trying to expand parole, Jim.
Yes. Chairman Jordan, Ben Burkholm, Real America's Voice News. One of the things that we know, these NGOs are so heavily involved with this, and we're paying for them. Is there anything that you can do in the House to cut off the funding to some of these organizations that are aiding and abetting the cartels?
The main thing we're going to focus on is enforcement of the laws, as our chairman of the Immigration Committee said, Mr. McClintock. I mean, again, you have to put back in place the policies that we're working. We plan on passing legislation out of the committee. We have 8 different pieces of legislation that are immigration enforcement measures that we think would in fact correct the problem, fix the problem, because they go back to the policies that were in place in the previous administration. We're going to do that. We're going to try to get that through the House. What the Senate does remains to be seen.
Representative Jordan, let's start with AM 560 KBLE. What can we tell our listeners and viewers that they can do to help you do what you have to?
Well, you got two Democrat senators in this state. They should be calling them up. I mean, the 2 United States senators in a state where the kind of problems that we've seen and been brought to our attention in the last 24 hours. I mean, that's a key. They should be talking to their senators. You got great members of Congress, in Andy Biggs and Paul Gosar, who are here today, and others who are willing to do the right thing. But your senators need to do the same. All righty.
I have a question.
Okay.
Entity Jackie Rios. Pushing border security bills will be tough in a divided Congress. Considering how urgent this issue is, would you consider taking 2 separate bills, one to address, that might work in parallel, one to address immigration reform and the other to address border security, just to get something moving?
Well, the country wants both. The country wants immigration enforcement legislation, that the policy changes, as we've talked about, that will fix it. And part of that more than anything will secure the border. And then, of course, we want to have we want to make available to our border control agents the resources they need. But those things work in tandem. All right, last one.
Tanya Wright, AM 560 KBLU. You said that this was Biden's border crisis part 2. Is there a part 3, or what is the next step for this?
Yeah, we will continue to have hearings that highlight this, but we're going to focus on legislation too.
But every great crisis has a trilogy, is I think your point. And what many officials we've talked to have referenced is the Title 42 change that we see coming. And so we worry that could be the next chapter in the trilogy. As the Title 42 tools go away, that will create an incentive system with the caravans and the cartels to increase the volume, thus increasing the pressure on communities like Yuma.
Can I ask one more? So we see what's going on now up in Ohio, and the community up there. I was there yesterday, and they were saying that they feel like they've been abandoned by Washington, D.C. You come down here and speak to people in Yuma, they feel like they've been abandoned by Washington, D.C. while you have Joe Biden in Ukraine. What can a House do? And again, what would your message be to the American people that feel abandoned?
I think this is just consistent with the Biden administration. You know, I always point out we went from a secure border to no border. We went from stable prices to record inflation. We went from safe cities to record levels of crime in almost every major urban area in the country. So and one of the things this committee is also concerned about is we now feel like so many of these federal agencies have been targeting the very people that they're supposed to serve. And our job is to get to the bottom of those things as well, get the facts on the table, and propose legislation to fix that situation in some of these federal agencies. So we're gonna focus on all that. But this is kind of consistent, unfortunately, with the Biden administration and the way they've operated now for over 2 years. Thank you all very much.
Can we do a quick photo? Thank you.
Squeeze in.
Come on, Victor, get in it.
Come here, Bender. You look lots better than me anyway with that. Nice.
You also got to thank all the people that showed up today.
Yeah, Greg. Thank you all.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Bring it back here. Hey, are we ready to go, Parker? Just let me know in my ear. Hang on.